Hi and welcome back. In this video, I wanted to guide you through some of the most popular Python libraries that can be used for a variety of things. So we're going to talk about some libraries you can use to interact with databases, some that you've already seen and some that you haven't, to look at web development, a couple to do communications like sending emails or SMS texts, a couple for GUI designed for graphical user interfaces like desktop apps, a bunch of them that can be used for data science and that are very popular, and then some for computer vision, and we're going to look at a couple of development tools as well you can use to make your life a bit easier when you're working with Python. For databases, you've already looked at SQLite 3, which comes with Python, and you can use SQLite 3 to interact with SQLite databases. There's another library that is actually fairly similar to SQLite 3 in some cases, although it's more advanced, and that's called PsychoPG2. PsychoPG2 can be used to interact with Postgres databases as opposed to SQLite databases. Postgres databases are also relational databases like SQLite databases are, but they are much more advanced. They let you do more things, and generally they perform better, but they're also a bit more complicated. Similarly to PsychoPG2, you've also got IOPG, which is the asynchronous version of PsychoPG2. It lets you do things like async connections to a database and sort of run other code while you wait for data to come back from the database and things like that. So if you're looking into high-performance PostgreSQL database connections from within Python and your application is asynchronous, I recommend you use IOPG. And then you've also got SQL Alchemy. SQL Alchemy is a sort of a different beast altogether. It can be used to connect to SQLite or Postgres or MySQL or Oracle or indeed any other type of database. And it sort of wraps the entire database connection in a different format. So what SQL Alchemy allows you to do, and we're going to look at this later on in the course, in this section, what SQL Alchemy allows you to do is define classes, and each class has a table and a bunch of columns, and then whenever you create an object, that sort of creates its corresponding row in the database. So it lets you work with Python only and not really worry about the database. It just gets taken care of for you. This is known as an object relational mapping, and SQL Alchemy is the most popular one in Python. For web development libraries, you've already seen Flask. I really like Flask. It's a very simple framework that nonetheless is very extensible and quite powerful. But a lot of people have heard of Django, which is sort of the big brother of web development in Python. And Django is a really powerful web framework, but it's also quite complicated. If you want to start learning learning Django, there's a lot of stuff you have to learn about how Django does things and what structure it wants you to follow in your code and how it wants you to handle X and Y and so forth. So the learning curve is much steeper. This is why I prefer Flask, especially when you're starting out. So Django can be really useful for making specific types of web applications because Django gives you a lot of things out of the box. You can just tell Django to create an app for you, and it will give you an app with a bunch of things in it, like user authentication, an administration panel, and so forth. But then, of course, that code is not code you've written, so it can limit you in what you can do to change it. You sort of have to follow its structure. As well as Flask and Django, you've got a bunch of asynchronous frameworks for web development. These are very powerful, but they are also more complicated than Flask, particularly IOHTTP that we've already seen, on Tornado. They are pretty challenging to really grasp, but they are quite powerful. They give you a lot of stuff you can do. For example, IOHTTP, as we know, gives you a client as well that you can use to make asynchronous requests, as well as do web development with it. Sanic and Quart are two new frameworks that actually don't have a lot of popularity yet, but they have been developed to be simple frameworks for web development that are asynchronous. They very much are similar to Flask in that regard, but they are asynchronous. Quart particularly actually was recently suggested to me by one of the students, and it is an exact mimic or copy of Flask, but made asynchronous, and as such it works with a lot of the Flask extensions. Flask is a very popular framework because of the extensions that sort of enhance Flask's power. Sanic doesn't have those extensions, and as such is a bit more limited in that